Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Lynn Nesbitt. I'm chairing the panel today. Joining me on the panel are Diane Knight and Bill Moretsky. Our administrative personnel is Jaswinder Kumar, and our assessor is Darren Ducharme. We'll be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You'll receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1 through 7 on our docket today. Mr. Kumar, please affirm the assessor's and applicant's testimony.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Darren Ducharme.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give is the hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Cuban, please state your full name.
Howard Lindsay McCubbin.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Please sit.
Thank you very much, and hello, Mr. Ducharme and Mr. McCubbin. Before we begin, the assessor has requested a slight change to the order of our docket. He is proposing that item number 4 be heard following item number 1. Given that the parking lots are essentially the same lot and it is the same owner. Mr. McCubbin, are you okay with that change in the order?
Yes, I am, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Property is that again? That would be number 4, right? Right.
Correct.
1.
So we'd hear the Cumberland appeal first and then the Donald Street appeal.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's great. So let's start then. Item 1 on our agenda is on Cumberland Avenue. We have no civic address there. Mr. Ducharme, when you're ready, please.
Thank you. We have file number 22-3226. The roll number is 130-528-01500. This is on Cumberland. The roll year is 2023 with a reference date April 1st, 2021. And we have an assessed value of $742,000. The parcel use is surface parking. Zoning is multiple use. The land area is 10,909 square feet. We have an outdoor parking stall count of 35, and our recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value. Page 2, the top is photo of an aerial view of the subject property on Cumberland. We can see it's adjacent to Donald and is located in the Central Park neighborhood. It is in close proximity to Giant Tiger, Burton Cummings Theatre, and Town Cinema. At the bottom of page 2 are a couple of aerial photos of the subject property from a couple of different angles. On page 3, we have a couple of street view photos of the subject property. The top is a photo entering the parking lot off of Cumberland, and the bottom is a photo facing the parking lot passing by on Cumberland. Page 4, request for information. Then we have our subject sales history. There's no recent sales history for the subject property. And below that is our subject property land sale comparable chart. Below the chart, you'll note that we've applied a value of $68.02 per square foot to the subject property. The comparables are in close proximity to the subject property. The comparables most similar in size to the subject property would be comparables 1 and 2. On page 5, we have our Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. Pages 6 through 11 are the return 2020 income and expense mailers we received back from the owner. On page 12, we have the rental rate information obtained from the subject property website. You'll note that the parking lot is open to the public evenings and weekends. And on page 13, we have some actual net rents per stall that have been reported from the 2020 income and expense mailers that we returned from these comparable properties. These comparables are in close proximity to the subject. And that would conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ducharme. Mr. McCubbin, do you have any questions for the assessor?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Ducharme, what's the highest and best use of this property as it stands today?
As it stands today, we determine that to be its development potential, the land itself.
Development potential.
We feel they're in good locations. The land downtown is scarce and they're good size.
As it relates to its development potential, you can see the odd shape of the lot. Do you think that that shape is conducive to a normal type of development on that site?
It is a bit odd shaped. There is the property or the parking lot beside it that would extend that. That is rectangular. That would help minimize that. But yes, it is an odd shape.
Okay, fair enough. But its current use is as a parking lot. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. In regards to the sales that you produced on page 14 to ascertain the value of the property, what sale is your best comparison here in comparison to the subject property?
The best, I would think, I'd mentioned the comparables 1 and 2, 170, 127 Valentine. They're very similar in size to the subject property. They're and in close proximity to the subject property.
What? So that's in the Exchange District proper, right?
Correct.
So what? How would you view the location of the sales on Bannatyne to that of the subject property in terms of in terms of development potential, area with respect to demographics and everything else?
Yes, the comparables on Bannatyne would be superior.
Okay, it would be superior. Now, you didn't value the property, did you? Or did you?
It was modeled.
So this is a model rate.
Yeah, I mean, I reviewed the land and the income values and determined that the land was the best value for this property.
Because of its development potential, not in regards to its current use as surface parking, right?
Yes.
Okay. Those are all my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions?
Yes, on page 4, your comparables. The first 6, those were surface parking, correct?
Yes, and some most of them are still parking. Yes, some are being developed or have been developed.
Which ones have been developed?
Sorry, just the one. Number 5 has been developed. Number 2 is being developed.
Number 2 is being developed, and number 5. The other ones are still parking?
Yes.
So number 2 and number 5, that doesn't seem to really impact the sale price per square foot, whether it's still, whether it was intended for parking or whether it was intended for development. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, I think that'd be fair to say.
Yeah. Okay. And 1 and 2, you said were the most comparable, but superior.
Their location is a little superior, yes. Would be superior, yes.
All right. Okay. And you decided to go with land value on this item instead of the income approach for what reasons?
Well, we think like as a potential investor, they wouldn't be looking at the income produced by the rent for this property. They'd be looking at the development potential that this property, just the value of this property for developmental purposes.
Okay, but however, the other sales, besides 2 and 5, they did actually stay as parking lots, correct?
They remain parking lots. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt COVID has hit hard, for the income for these properties, and that's at this time, parking would not just, as a potential investor, I would be looking at it not from generating income from parking, but as a potential investment for development.
Did you do a workup using the income approach before you did this, or that's not part?
We did look at the income, yes.
And do you choose to comment on what the results were of that?
We did present it. It does not really support our land value, our comparison, land comparison value.
Okay, no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Moretsky. Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
It doesn't say on the I&E how many stalls, is that correct? Just the 27 on page 8?
I'm looking at 27, yes. It says 27, yes.
Okay, and it doesn't say how many Manitoba Justice are taking, is that correct?
Yes, I think so. There's the other parking lot as well. No, you're right. It doesn't say how many.
Okay, and the second question I have, because Mr. Moretsky asked got a lot of questions I was thinking of, where you're showing on page 12 the income for $3 an evening. Do they change that on Jets games night?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Knight. I do have a question also about your land sale comparables on page 4. I appreciate you've said number comp 1 and 2 are your best. Are these lots, you've noted that they are in proximity, but what about their their shape? Are they regularly shaped lots? Are they irregularly shaped lots? Can you comment on that? And also with respect to the irregular shape of this lot, what kind of development would you foresee going on this type of lot?
So 170 Bannatyne is somewhat a bit irregular shape. 127 Bannatyne is a regular shape, kind of almost like square, maybe a bit rectangular. And in terms of this is the multiple use, so there could be a number of options here. Could be, you know, restaurants, even multiple multi-family. There's a number of different uses that this property could develop into. I mean, office, restaurants, retail.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I have no further questions. So, Mr. McCubbin?
Madam Chair, I have a redirect based on Mr. Moretsky's line of questioning.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. Mr. Ducharme, with respect to, you said a potential investor would not be looking at the income potential of this property, but would be looking at the development potential. What is that development potential, or to be direct, what is the development horizon with respect to this property? How far in the future do you think it is of a property like this? Never mind the shape of the property, but its development potential given its location.
The development potential timeline?
Yes,
Sorry.
yes.
I don't know.
But yet you state that you're basing the value on its development potential.
There's a number of like multi-residential properties sort of occurring in this neighborhood recently. I could see that becoming somewhat recent,
Right.
in a couple of years. You know.
So you're saying that this property will be developed in a couple of years? Is that your evidence?
It has a potential. I would.
It has a potential. Have you done a study on that?
No.
Okay, so that's your opinion.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and this leads me to another question. How long has it been a parking lot?
It's been a parking quite some time. Yeah, I don't know exactly. I'm sorry. How long it's been a number of cycles. You know.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. McCubbin.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I forgot to turn your attention to page 2 of my brief. I think the assessor has gone through the location quite well and showed the photographs, so I won't belabor that point, but the way it looks from above and from the street view perspective. The stall count we have is 35 for this specific property, Madam Chair. We're dealing with the 2023 assessment year this year. The reference date, as the assessor said, is April 1st, 2021. We're requesting a value reduction to $504,000 based on the income quotient value. I can go to page 6 of my presentation. I'll quickly read through this. Subject property is an irregular shaped surface parking lot located on the south side of Cumberland Avenue, adjacent to the intersection of Cumberland Avenue and Donald Street. According to the City of Winnipeg's valuation of income-producing properties, the subject is located within NCA 169. That should say 2023. But it's still located, and I'll point out where it's located in that map soon, Madam Chair. The parking lot contains 35 parking, which are closed market stalls. This lot is closed to market during regular hours, meaning that there are contracts with respect to spaces from on a daily basis. The site has multiple use zoning with a total land area of 10,909 square feet. Now, with respect to the highest and best use, Madam Chair, I must touch on this because it's important when valuing property. You look at the highest and best use of the property before you attempt a valuation of the property. And you will see the 3 points on page, 4 points on page 7 of my presentation. And my conclusion at the end, I'm not going to go through everything within. You can read that at your own speed. But the conclusion at the end, my conclusion is the highest and best use for the subject property is considered the continuance of its current use as a parking lot. It has been a parking lot for many years, Madam Chair, and we don't see it changing anytime in the near future. The development potential for this parking lot, given its irregular shape and its location within the area, is way off, if at all ever possible. So we feel that the current use as a surface parking lot is the highest and best use for this property, and it should be valued by the income approach to value, not direct sales. Getting further into my brief, Madam Chair, if you turn to page 10 of my presentation, with respect to the capitalization rate, the city in the past, and I must touch on the past because the city hasn't done a capitalization study or has promoted any capitalization rates with respect to surface parking lots this cycle. But nevertheless, the last cycle, they were promoting rate of 4.5%. Where the income approach was utilized. This rate appears low. It appears low given the location of this property and with respect to the current market conditions in 2021, April 1st. Below that, you will see the capitalization rate for office capitalization rates, which are typically associated with parking lot. But because parking lot is bare land, we typically go lower than the actual. Capitalization rate associated with a building, unless it's all encompassing and that income approach takes care of the parking lot. That obviously would get a much higher capitalization rate. We feel a capitalization rate for this land is for this property a reasonable capitalization rate is 5%. Going to page 11 of my brief, Madam Chair, you'll see the way we valued this property. The 2019 and 2020 income and expense statements reported 109 for stall gross income. So we're applying that. 35 stalls for the period of 1 year. It gives us a value of $45,780. With an expense ratio typical of a parking lot, surface parking lot, again, in the past, and I must harken back to the past because we have nothing in terms of a study. And I can tell you, Madam Chair, if the study was done within the pandemic, the expense ratio would be much higher than 45% because of the underutilization of parking spaces in the downtown area. So we feel we will stick with 45%. Nevertheless, in this case, we feel it's reasonable. It doesn't depreciate the value of the property to merely nothing. The property we do recognize does have value, but it has value at the income approach. Our net operating income thus becomes $25,179, capitalized at 5%. We arrive at a value of $504,000 rounded. If you can turn to the appendix, Madam Chair, on page 14, you will see this is from the City of Winnipeg information with respect to the reassessment for the current cycle. They produced this map, and they also produced on page 15 the net income per stall and the ranges. And that is the net income per stall and the ranges, but they did not produce capitalization rate. And in some instances, in most instances, it chose not to go with their information. They just defaulted to the cost direct comparison approach, which we feel is incorrect. It is a difficult task during the pandemic, and I can tell you they must have had a difficult task reconciling the values of properties, but nevertheless, I'm representing our client here and their best interest with respect to the value of this property. I'm not doing a mass appraisal on this property. I'm doing a site-specific valuation of this property. This property follows, I believe, goes into the NCA, parking lots, PKL parking lots in the outer downtown area. So you will see the band there with a net income range of $31.50 to $58.50. Now, at a monthly rate of 109, you can see that the subject property falls well within that range, Madam Chair. So we're not out of line with respect to our parking lot stall rate, net income. The income and expense statements associated with this property does reflect a different property also. Nevertheless, if you look at the monthly parking rate, it's reported on the property, on the income and expense statements on page 21 and also on page 17. And again on page 25. And you can see the owner on page 29, when asked with respect to the supplemental questionnaire for COVID-19, it had no impact on their associated income. So, nevertheless, it's still operated as a parking lot with those stall rates. And that's my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. McCubbin. Mr. Ducharme, do you have any questions?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moretsky.
Yes. So at the beginning, you said it was located between NCA, located within NCA 169. Is that correct?
It's in the Central Park region, so sorry, it's in the green area. It's in the outer regions of the downtown area. Yeah. If you look at it's not very clear, is it?
It's in green then? The green area?
Yeah, it's in that green. You can see Central Park. I'm looking at page 14, Madam Chair, of my presentation. Yeah. So if you look at that, you can see it's located on the periphery of the downtown area. The more you get out of the downtown area, the more the parking stall rate drops, in a sense. So it would be at the lower end of that range.
Well, the green is Isn't that inner? Isn't that supposed to indicate inner?
That's correct. It's the outer part of the inner city, yes.
So it is in the inner.
Yeah, you can see it does say Central Park, which is where this lot is associated in that specific area, which is if you're looking at the map, it's the green section that's to the left of, to the right of Spence 104.
Yeah.
So it's 105, I believe.
Okay, excuse me. Yeah, so yeah, what you're saying is it's in the inner, but on the outer of the inner.
That's correct.
I think that's got it, yeah.
Okay, parking lot, highest and best use. So this particular lot, from what you know about it, you mentioned a lot of times the lots are associated with an office when you were, determining the what you would apply for a cap rate.
Right.
However, is this particular lot associated with any building right now, or is it just a bare lot that's just there for parking lot revenue?
It is associated with offices downtown, but I guess I can't say it's economically associated, so to speak. It can be, but they're reporting separately.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Sorry, they're reporting separately the income for this parking lot and a different parking lot. So it may be associated, in fact, it is with an office building or office buildings, but it's not a part of the income with respect to those buildings. It's reported separately, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but there is no like tenant, for instance, that uses that lot solely. Like I guess you mentioned Manitoba Infrastructure.
Yeah, Manitoba Infrastructure and Transportation Housing uses 27 of those lots, and the remainder, it seems as though it's used by Justice Department. So they are associated they're associated with office, with people who would work downtown.
Mm-hmm.
But the value is not associated with those offices, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not tied. It's not.
So I just have kind of one other comment. You had kind of got ahead of this one when you said there was no impact due to COVID. The 2020 expenses, which it was a COVID year, the net operating income is actually higher than what you had calculated. You're aware of that, right? And that was in 2020. 28,206 on page 25.
On page 25.
2020 income and expense from the client.
Right, that is correct. That is correct. That can happen in some cases. In some cases, Madam Chair, you'll notice that the net income report is higher or lower. We use a gross monthly rate, and we apply specific to be consistent overall. We apply a specific expense ratio to these parking lots, or that's what has been applied in the past for consistency. And that may explain the difference in the reported net versus what the valuation net is. And that reported net can fluctuate from year to year also.
However, one might say that 2020 would be kind of a worst case year in general for parking lots, correct?
And yes, and in some cases it is, Madam Chair. Anything that's associated with restaurants, offices, in certain parts of downtown. But this particular property didn't seem to affect. That's the problem with doing just carte blanche, looking at defaulting to a land value for these properties. I think they have to be looked at individually. Some had no impact. The pandemic had no impact on the income of the property. I suspect in some cases there were contracts signed and people weren't able to back out of these contracts. So they may not have come downtown and the parking lots may not have been full, but they were still generating revenue for the owner in some cases and expenses. And that may be the case for this parking lot.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much for those answers. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Moret. Thank you, Mr. Moretsky. Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
So on page 27 on that NOI again,
Right.
Does it look like they're not charging justice for any parking? They're just getting the parking recovery then? They're not charging them a rate for those 8 spots?
It seems that way, yes. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and I have no additional questions. Mr. Ducharme, is there a desire for summation?
No, I have no summation. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, sorry for interrupting. I did rebuttal evidence and in the form of 3 parts. I did file the downtown zoning bylaw 100-2004. It's a fairly large document, but I wouldn't be obviously going through it, but I needed to file it with respect to the sales of this property. I filed also rebuttal evidence, the new downtown Winnipeg zoning bylaw guide. This zoning bylaw 100/2004 supersedes the original bylaw 4800/88, which was fairly. I can tell you, previous zoning bylaw 4888 required the of.
Okay, excuse me, can I just interrupt you, Mr. McCubbin? We don't yet have that in front of us.
Sorry.
So if you just give us a minute and Mr. Kumar will make sure we have access to it.
Yeah,
and
I
then
just
perhaps.
in the folder, Madam Chair.
Okay, great. And maybe you can take us through the relevant points that you'd like us to focus on.
Right. Thank you, Madam Chair. So when you look at and this rebuttal evidence, I think, will speak to a number of properties on this docket, so we won't have to go through it. Once we spend some time on this, it should.
Okay, so which one should we focus on first?
Okay. Let's focus on the actual downtown Winnipeg zoning bylaw.
The one with 153 pages?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Have you got some time, Madam Chair? Okay, but in all seriousness, Madam Chair, I only filed this, and I think you needed to go through this, and at least you have it for your records for the future. But if you look at the assessor's sales on page 4 of this presentation, you will see under the second to last column zoning, and in that you can see the different types of zoning all located in the downtown area, with the exception of one, which is R, Riverbank. So the sales run the gamut of all the different types of zoning applicable to the downtown area, with the exception of R, which is Riverbank. So I did make a reference exactly, just bear with me, Madam Chair, exactly where to go in the zoning bylaw to highlight the different. Alrighty, Madam Chair, if we go to that document, the bylaw 100/2004, and for example, for the C zoning, character zoning, if you go to page 53 of that bylaw,
Okay.
you will see the type of uses that are associated with this type of zoning. And you also have to bear in mind the actual zoning of the subject property would be also C in this case. Sorry, no, this is multiple use zoning, so it's a fairly comprehensive use for subject property. But when looking at the sales in relation to value, one has to look at what's allowed in that specific zoning area of the downtown area to make sense. What I'm trying to get at, Madam Chair, is that we, I appreciate the assessor trying to relate value by the direct comparison approach, but I think a much better study can be done in terms of how we associate square foot value to the actual zoning of the property. There are also motivations from various vendors and purchaser. A motivation from purchaser, maybe they own the property next door. They will outbid anyone, just about anyone in the market to get that property. So is that a high sale? Is that typically a market transaction? No, they were highly motivated. So these have to, these issues have to be taken into consideration when comparing, when looking at the value of any type of property, because it's a fairly complex downtown zoning bylaw. Yes, we do have a range of sales, but I can see it goes right up to $142 a square foot. Bears no relation to the value of the subject property. So to continue with my zoning bylaw, if you go to page 4 of zoning M, multiple zoning, which is the subject zoning, you can go to page 43, Madam Chair, of that, and it'll give you an idea of what's allowed there. And within that, it's fairly straightforward what would be allowed. And again, finally, on page 65, you'll see the downtown living sector, and that's a D. There are 2 sales in the set associated with the downtown living sector, Madam Chair, and that can be found on page 65 of the zoning bylaw, which applies to downtown. In regards to, so I'll leave it at that. That's it's a document, father's rebuttal. The other document I would like to put forward, Madam Chair's rebuttal, is the guide associated with that bylaw that I just spoke about. And I'm not sure if you have that in front of you.
Yep, we do.
Okay, so you can look at that, and it's a quick read. And on the second page, you can see the various areas and how they come up with the actual zoning of the property. Why areas are zoned, and it gives you an idea of what's allowed in specific areas of the downtown. Multiple use being the most flexible, obviously. And like I stated, our riverbank, that's just generally associated with public space, parks, etc., and not associated with any type of development per se, except maybe at the forks. And for now, that's my rebuttal evidence. And that, Madam Chair, I'd like to carry forward to the remainder of the docket in regards to any sales that may be put forward, so we don't have to go through this process, this laborious process.
That makes good sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ducharme, do you have questions on Mr. McCubbin's rebuttal evidence?
No, I do not.
Thank you. Mr. Moretsky,
No, I do not.
Ms. Knight?
No, I do not.
Okay, and I don't either. Mr. Ducharme, do you have rebuttal evidence?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you very much. And Mr. Ducharme, is there a desire for summation?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McCubbin?
No, Madam Chair, I think we've discussed this enough. I think you have it well in hand.
Thank you. Okay, so we've agreed now that we will hear item number 4 on our agenda. So if you just give us a minute to flip to there. This is the one on Donald Street.
Yes.
Okay, does everybody have that in front of them now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Ducharme, when you're ready, please.
File number is 22-3227. Rule number 130-528-04000. The address 0 Donald Street. For the roll year 2023 with a reference date April 1st, 2021. We have an assessed value of $287,000. The parcel use is surface parking. The zoning is M, multiple use. Land area is 4,723. And we have an outdoor parking stall count of 12. Our recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value. On page 2 are some aerial views of the subject property. The top photo, we can see the subject property on Cumberland. So it's right next, adjacent to the one that we had just discussed. On the bottom are a couple of closer aerial photos of the subject property. The entrance to this parking lot is through the other parking lot from Cumberland. At the top is a street view, some street view photos of the subject property from Cumberland. Approaching Donald. They're all taken from Cumberland Street. The bottom picture is from the alley next to the subject property. On page 4 are requests for income information, the subject sales history, which there's no recent sales history for the subject. The subject property land sale comparable chart. And below the land sale comparable chart, we've applied a value of $60.77 per square foot. As stated, the owners of this property also own the adjacent parking lot on Cumberland. And this could be potentially assembled for development purposes. It's also zoned multi-use. So as we've seen, there's a range of development opportunities for this property. On page 5, the Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. Pages 6 through 11 are the Return 2020 Income and Expense mailers we received back from the owner. On page 12, we have the actual reported rates from the subject property website, in which there's evening and weekend income. And that would conclude my presentation. Thank you. And that would conclude my presentation. Thank you. Oh, we can't hear.
Oh, we can't hear you, Madam Chair. Oh.
That's because I'm muted. Had a little coughing attack. Sorry about that. Mr. McCubbin, do you have any questions of the assessor's evidence?
Yes, Madam Chair, I do. As I've stated, I'm not going to belabor this board with my questions again in relation to the sales. They stand from the last property we dealt with. However, these properties are associated. And I note, Mr. Ducharme, this is a pretty regular shaped lot, is it not? A rectangular in shape
Yes, this is
compared to the subject,
correct.
right? And it's a smaller lot, correct?
This particular, the subject property? Yes.
Yes. Now, when you look at the relative size, it's less than half of that of the associated lot that we just dealt with. Yet the value and placed on it is a lower value of $60 square foot, 60.77. So this is where and again, this is modeled, you said?
Correct.
So it modeled it at a lower rate. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you would agree with me that the property we're dealing right now is more of a regular shaped lot and smaller.
Yes.
Those are all the questions I have.
Thank you. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions?
Yes, on page 13 and 14 of your addendum, there's the comparable properties and rental rates for surface parking.
Yes.
So you have the first chart that goes from index 1 to 11, and the second one that goes from 1 to 7. What is the difference between those two charts?
The top chart are more the exchange district parking lots, and then the bottom chart are more around the Burton Cumming Theater area. So the bottom chart would be they're both, the subject property is close to both, but the more comparable one, I guess, would be the bottom chart. Would be more so.
Okay, and those are net.
The bottom chart are all around the Burton Cumming Theater, which the subject property is close to.
All right. So that was a lower square foot price than the first regular shaped item. Is that correct? Do I have that right?
I'm sorry, I missed the
Question was, this is it $8 less per square foot than the item 1, Cumberland?
that sounds about right. I could just double check. Cumberland, yes, was 68.02, and this one's 60.77. Correct.
Should it be lower? Yeah.
Yes.
And why is that? Why should it be lower?
I suppose just for this its size and it's a model driven value. I think what we're as a if a potential investor, if the owner was willing to or could assemble these two together, they would have a large enough lot for development potential.
No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moretsky. Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just back to that NOI again. Because now this one says 21 spots, but you're saying 12. And when I look at it, when it's taken out, now the infrastructure for housing is showing 19 spots. Is that because she's covering both parking lots with that 19 spots? I'm just confused.
Yes. Well, if you look at my page 2, I think that's on the bottom. There's not 21.
I was trying to count them.
There's 12 here.
Yeah.
So I think it's just the way that it was reported. This property only contains 12 parking stalls, but it is combined with the other lots, or the same ownership as the other lots.
So it's just the one line of parking there, not the other line that you see in the pictures on your page 3.
Yeah, on
It's
page,
just the line with the green and red card and not the line with the white truck in it. With the white van then.
parking for this is only against the building, yes.
Okay, now I got okay, but so why would she put 21 spots on that NOI then?
It's just the way they reported it. I'm not sure why they would report it that way, but there's definitely not 21 for this property there.
Okay, thank you.
If you look at the combined totals for both properties,
They kind of add up then.
yeah, we have actually one less, 20. We have 47, and they have 48 in total. We have 30.
Yeah, so they're closer that way when you put the two lots together, absolutely. But
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Knight. And I have no questions. So, Mr. McCubbin, when you're ready with your presentation, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Turning to page 2 of my presentation, property owner's public capital company. You see the associated roll number with this property, 13-052804,000. This size, the relative size of this property is 4,723 square feet. The current assessed value is 287,000. We're requesting an assessment of 173,000 for this small lot, Madam Chair. The assessor again has done a really good job of describing its location and where it's at and showing the photographs, so I'm not going to go through that. I will touch on the highest and best use of this property again, and it's continued to be, it's considered to be its current use as a parking lot again. That's on page 9 of my presentation. It has been a parking lot for many years, and in the foreseeable future it will be a parking lot. Until such time this property is developed, Madam Chair, I think it should be looked at and valued by the income approach to value. There are 12 stalls associated with this property. I know there was some confusion in regards to that. There are in fact 12 stalls associated with this property. On page 12, I've gone through how we got our capitalization rate. I don't believe I have to go through that again. It's less than associated offices in the general vicinity and offices in general. It's a lower end of cap rate being bare land, 5%. This is valued the same way as the associated property next door. 12 stalls at $109 gross times 12 months gives us a value of $15,696, and again expenses of 45% leaves us with an NOI of $8633. Capitalize at an appropriate capitalization rate of 5%, we arrive at a value of $173,000 rounded. In my appendix, again, I'm showing the city's parking map, where this is located, and their parking rates. That's the net stall rate. We also have a reported net stall rate to deal with here, which is good. And the associated income and expense statements follow from page 19 to the end of my brief with reporting the supplemental questionnaire in regards to COVID-19. So I asked the board to reduce the value of this property from $287,000 to $173,000, and that's
Thank you, Mr. McCubbin. Mr. Ducharme, do you have any questions?
Yes, on page 27 of the net operating income for 2020 is reported at $23,380.64. Would you agree?
Yes, that's correct.
And page 13, you're using a net operating income to value the property at $50,696.
Right. Yeah. Again, these as we've stated before, these are associated I&E statements on 2 different roll number. They should be looked at in conjunction with each other, Madam Chair. The fact remains that we do have 12 stalls here reporting at $109 and using a 45% expense ratio. It's appropriate to this specific part of the economic unit. I'm not sure if that answers the assessor's questions.
No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ducharme. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions?
Yeah, maybe this has already been asked, I guess, but so you're saying that the okay, on page the 23 on page 27, the 23,380 net operating income reported is not accurate because the owner has two lots side by side and they got mixed up. Is that what you're?
Yeah, that's correct, Madam Chair. I think they have to be looked at in conjunction with each other. What's important here is the actual stall rate, the monthly rate as they report it. And that's the income for this specific property in this area. And we apply to be consistent and appropriate expense ratio for surface parking, which the city has done in the past and which we're doing here.
Okay, so you're kind of disregarding the actuals in this particular case. Would that be accurate?
I'm not disregarding the actuals as it relates to the actual income of the property. I'm just applying.
Not the net income, though. You're disregarding it.
Yes, I am. In this case, yeah. You can see on page 19, the net operating income in 27 was reported at $16.95.
Yes.
On page 19 of my brief.
Yes, I see that. So for the one on Cumberland, you use the net income, though, correct? The one next to it.
If I can go back.
You did apply the actuals in that case. The actual.
Not necessarily the actuals. No. What I did is, Madam Chair, again, I just applied a 45% expense ratio. I applied the actual with respect to the stall, the gross income per stall. That's an actual amount I applied, but in relation to the expenses, I stabilized it at 45%.
All right, no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moretsky. Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
Yeah, that's what I was, the 45%, you just stabilized it. You did not do it by actuals, correct? That's what you were saying?
No, that's correct.
That's how come the NOIs are different then?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, now I think I've got that.
It's done for consistency with treating parking lots right across the board.
Right, all parking lots you're saying are 45% expense ratio.
Generally, that's the way they were treated in the past, these specific type of parking lots. The expenses could go up and down depending on the years of snow, clearing, a whole bunch of issues associated with expenses. So we stabilize it. Unless you're jumping all over the place, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions, Ms. Knight?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
And I have no additional questions either.
Madam Chair, can I ask one more, please?
Of course, Mr. Moretsky, of course.
So when you went through Cumberland, at least I wasn't aware that there was another lot, rectangular lot beside this one. But now I know that they almost looking at a map, they almost combine into one lot now with, you know, a corner piece that's kind of going at an angle. Just getting back to the development potential aspect of this lot. If you look at both of them together, does that not now open up more possibility for development of the property?
It would in a sense, Madam Chair, but again, you remain with a relative unique type looking lot on a corner in a bend street with access points. What type of development you can do in that situation would be limited. It would be very limited compared to a straight rectangular or square piece of lot, Madam Chair. And again, development potential for this area, we suspect is way off into the future. This has been a parking lot for many years and it will continue as far as we know in foreseeable future. And so any discussion with respect to development potential is very subjective.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moretsky. Mr. Ducharme, is there a desire for summation?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. McCubbin?
No, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we will move back on our agenda to item number 2, 170 Bannatyne Avenue. Mr. Ducharme, when you're ready, please.
Thank you. File numbers 22-2897. Roll numbers 130-607-47000. The address is 170 Bannatyne. For the roll year 2023, with a reference date April 1st, 2021, we have an assessed value $951,000. We have a parcel use as service parking. Zoning is C, character. We have a land area, 11,140. An outdoor parking lot count of 32. Our recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value. On page 2 are some aerial photos of the subject property. At the top, we see the subject property is located on the south side, Bannatyne, with Main Street located just to the west and Rory Street to the east. The parking lot is in close proximity to the Manitoba Theatre Centre, Centennial Concert Hall, and a number of restaurants. At the bottom of the page, we have a couple of closer aerial views of the subject property from a couple of different angles. On page 3, there are several street view photos of the subject property from a few different angles. The top, we're approaching the subject property from west on Bannatyne. The middle, we're in front of the entrance to the parking lot, Bannatyne. And on the bottom, we're passing by the subject parking lot on Bannatyne. On page 4, requests for information. Then we have the subject sales history. You'll note the subject did sell on October 9th, 2019, which is well within the reference date for $1,060,000, which works out to $95.15 per square foot. You'll note this sale price is above our 2023 assessed value of $951,000. Our records indicate this was an arm's length sale between unrelated parties. That was a valid sale. Below that, we have the subject property land sale comparable chart. Below the chart, you know, we've applied a value of $85.37 per square foot to the subject property. The comparables provided are in close proximity to the subject property. And in fact, comparable one is the subject property, where we see it sold for $95.15 per square foot in October of 2019. We believe that the market value expected would be what the current owner paid for the property. On page 5 is the Municipal Assessment Act excerpt. Pages 6 through 9 are the returned income and expense mailers. Pages 10 and 11 are the rental rates as reported from the website of the subject property. That would conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ducharme. Mr. McCubbin, do you have any questions?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you very much. Mr. Ducharme, yes, there is a sale recorded on the property on October the 9th. You know the vendor and purchaser of this sale?
Yes.
Can you give me the vendor's name?
It was sold by London Life Insurance to 170 Valentine Avenue.
And who is 170 Valentine Avenue?
I don't know. I know they also own the property on Main Street there, right in front of the property.
So they have an associated property with respect to this sale. So this vendor was essentially, this is what we would call highly motivated to acquire this property, would we not?
Definitely they'd be motivated, but I wouldn't think they would pay above market, extremely above market rates for the property.
So when you look at the property,
knowledgeable buyers.
fair enough. But when you look at the property associated with this property, it's an office building and part retail on the main floor on Main Street. When you say that has a tremendously more value, that value of that property is tremendously higher when compared to this parking lot.
The associated property, a lot of it's being converted, on 4th floor through 10th floor being converted to residential. So it's not all office. They were office.
But it is an associated situation, right? So the vendor would be highly motivated in order to secure parking for their for the building that fronts on Main Street. Would they not be?
They'd be motivated, sure.
They would be motivated. Now you're referring to a letter, you didn't refer to a letter, but there's a letter in there with on page 6 of your presentation from Capital Property Management Incorporated, right?
Right.
Giving you the statement of the, right. In regards to the income and expense statements, did it supply revenue for this property? Did they not?
Pardon me?
They did supply revenue in regards to the property, the subject property, correct?
Right.
So with respect to development potential, do you think the owner would be developing this property?
I wouldn't know.
But just based on your experience or logic, do you think the owner would give up parking to develop a property when they need it with an associated roll number?
I don't know. I don't know if they would.
What is the highest and best use of this property?
Well, our land sale comparables indicated, I think, support. I think the highest and best use of the property.
Yes.
Right now, I don't know.
Wouldn't it be its current use as a parking lot?
I don't know.
Okay. Those are all the questions I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McCubbin. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions?
Yes, so this lot is still, this property is still a parking lot, is that correct?
Yes.
And you're not aware of any plans by the owner in terms of developing the property?
Not aware of any plans at the moment. No, for this property.
So they bought it in 2019,
Yes.
and we do not know why they bought it, either for development or parking or what their.
No, I don't know. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk to another property that's coming up, but they did purchase another property on this street that they are currently developing. So there may be development plans. I don't know for this property in the future. I don't know.
Okay, no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Moretsky. Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you, and I do not either. So, Mr. McCubbin.
Thanks, Madam Chair. The property owner is London Life Insurance Company Limited. The property address is 170 Valentine. The relative size of the lot is 11,140 square feet. We're asking that the assessment be reduced to 576,000, Madam Chair, from $951,000. On page 6, you can see the description and site map of the subject property. I'm not going to go through the site map. It doesn't show any parking there. I suspect this was done on the weekend when they flew over. But the subject property does have 32 surface parking lots. It's been a parking lot for many years and will continue to be a parking lot in the near future associated with the building next to it. The highest and best use of this property, Madam Chair, on page 7, my conclusion is considered to be the continuance of its current use as a parking lot. On page 10, Madam Chair, I will not go through capitalization rates. We've discussed that before. I think you kind of know where we're coming from with respect to 5% will apply in the income summary for the parking lot. On page 11, the way we're valuing this property is reasonable in the sense that we're using the 32 stalls and we're using a $75 net rate per stall. That's not a gross, that's a net rate per stall. Times 12 months, obviously, and arriving at NOI of $28,800. Applying a cap rate of 5%. With respect to this property, we arrive at a value for its current use and highest and best use of $576,000. On page 14 in my appendix, Madam Chair, we have that parking map again, showing the lot. The area associated with the subject property would be in the green area. And you can see the net income per stall, with the highest being around Portage and Main Street, one would gather. And as you move away from the core, that value will drop. The value per stall that we're placing on this property is $75 per stall. So it's about in the middle of that, the range that the city has produced in their reassessment document. On page 18, 17, 18, 19, and right through the end of my brief, Madam Chair. We have the submission from the owner in regards to the associated income and expense statements for this lot. I hope you can see it better than I can because mine is very tiny. Again, reported income looks like around 81,000, and the net income is 3661. I'm looking at the last page of my brief, Madam Chair. I hope I'm picking up those numbers correctly. And that's my presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. McCubbin. Mr. Ducharme, do you have any questions?
Excuse me, I do. Page 11 of your brief. Mr. McCubbin, do you have any market evidence to show how you arrived at this $75 per stall?
No, I don't, Madam Chair. What we're doing is we're depending on the city's information in regards to parking in this downtown area. It's their information they published with respect to parking in the downtown area. And in general, it is it represents the ranges of parking spaces, net income per stall in the downtown area and surrounding. So I'm utilizing that, arriving at a net operating income, Madam Chair. Again, one would have to look at, if you look at the actual stabilizing it, you can see on the income and expense statements on page 19 of the brief, the net operating income was $29,000. On page, the last page of the brief, it's 35,000. We're merely stabilizing expenses by using the net rate for the general area for this property, Madam Chair. There is associated parking, and I will be filing rebuttal evidence in regards to that from a municipal board decision.
Thank you. Mr. Ducharme, any additional questions?
Yes, so taking your valuation of $576,000, if we divide that by the area of the lot, which is 11,140 square feet,
Right.
we get a value of $51.71 per square foot. Considering that the owner purchased the property in October 2019 for $95.15 per square foot, do you think the owner would sell the property for $51?
No, I don't think the owner would sell the property. The owner was highly motivated, as I stated, Madam Chair, in acquiring this property. And also, one sale does not make a market. You have to look at associated sales and their general motivation. When an owner is highly motivated, you have to kick that sale out when in relation to market value. It's tantamount to a piece of green space located next to my residential home, which I may want to acquire instead of someone else is developing it for the purposes of whatever means they want to develop it. I would be highly motivated to acquire that property so I can have control and use over that property. In a sense, is that really market? No, it's not. It's a highly motivated sale, sale, Madam Chair.
That concludes my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ducharme. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Thank you. Ms. Knight?
I do have a question. Why would you use a net rate per stall on this to come up with a figure, as the other two properties you used income and expenses at 45%?
Right, that's a very good question. When you look at the income of this property, Madam Chair, and one of the other properties are being developed, you can see and I wish I had I believe I'm reading this correctly. When you look, for example, at page 29, tenant provided with stalls and stall rate. I don't know. You can blow it up in your on your
$205 for 26 stalls.
$205 for 26, and then we have what's that number above on the stall for 2 reserve.
There's a 0 for tenant parking with additional charge to loose ends.
Right.
Yeah.
And you look at the other income and expense statement, which is located on page 23. It's the same.
Mm-hmm.
This is highly irregular for this area, Madam Chair, in terms of parking. Again, this property is associated with the building right next to it, and tenants within that building also, which is a developed property on Main Street. One should be looking at the overall value of both properties and the income they derive from not only the building, from the parking lot. These properties, in a sense, should be merged. One alone cannot look at the value of the parking stalls rate when it's associated with an income producing property right next to it. And I will provide rebuttal evidence, like I said, with respect to that.
Okay, so my other question then would be, a motivated seller would pay almost double the value of the property just to get the property, you're telling us?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely, Madam Chair. Especially if it's a property such as this, where it's located, and there, like I've stated before, Madam Chair, the value of the property associated with this is tremendously higher than the value of this property. So the relationship is, when you say highly motivated, $500,000 to an investor for a property like this is, they will definitely put that money out there because they're highly motivated to acquire this property. They want control of the property, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. McCubbin, you said that this property together with the Main Street property should probably be merged because they're essentially one economic unit. So has your client, or you on behalf of your client, requested that of the assessment department?
No, we have not, Madam Chair. That's a good question. In a lot of cases, the department would approach the clients just for administrative purposes to actually do that, in a sense. A lot of times, it's not the client requesting it. It's generally the assessment department would request that they be merged for administrative purposes and to get a full understanding of the income and expense statement as it relates to both properties.
And given that it was just purchased in...
Sorry?
Yeah, I was saying, given that it was just purchased in 2019.
Right. Yeah. As far as I know, the client has not requested that, Madam Chair, and I'm not sure about it.
Okay. Okay, I have no additional questions. Is there, oh, you would like to present some rebuttal evidence, Mr. McCubbin?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, give us a minute so that we can get to it. This is the municipal board order.
That is correct. Order A-11-018.
From February 2nd, 2011.
That's correct.
Okay, go ahead.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So specifically, if I can turn you, well, let me back up here.
Yes.
I just need a minute to print it for Mr. Duchamp. I think the paper is out from the machine. Can we go for a break for a moment?
Of course, we can break for a minute. We'll just adjourn for a few minutes to get things sorted out. Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting back to order. We were continuing our discussion of 170 Bannatyne Avenue, and Mr. McCubbin, you were about to present rebuttal evidence. You can begin your evidence, please.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So this municipal board order number A-11-018, the matter was between, it's an assessment appeal between Cambridge Credit Union Limited, the appellant, and the city assessor, the respondent. The assessment year is 2008. Just by way of referencing this, I'm not referencing values in any way. This is a totally different cycle, and this is not evidence of that material. It's just evidence of the way we would treat a property that's located right next door for parking that's associated with a different economic unit. You can see the appearances by the appellant and the city assessor down below on the docket. So if I can turn your attention to page 2 of my brief, of the order, Madam Chair, you'll see I'd like to turn your attention to the second to last part of that order, and I'll read it verbatim. Mr. Saunders argues that Mr. Brett Ferguson, the city assessor, has surprised him by using an excess land value in his valuation of the subject property. Mr. Saunders is challenging the comparable sales Mr. Ferguson has used to determine a market value for the land on the subject property. Mr. Saunders intends to show through assessments of the 5 parking lots that an inequity will exist if their sale values are used instead of their assessed values. I don't necessarily agree with what Mrs. Saunders was trying to promote at that hearing, but the board will deal with this in their decision. On page 5, Madam Chair, of that order, I'd like to turn your attention to page 5, in the second paragraph, beginning with Mr. Ferguson considers the highest and best use of the western half of the subject property. Now, this property is located on Broadway, and it has an associated parking lot, which we're talking about here, much similar to the subject property we're dealing with. So Mr. Ferguson considers the highest and best use of the western half of the subject property. This part consists of 16,900 square feet and is used by its lessee Impart as a public parking lot. He determines that the highest and best use is for development purposes, nevertheless. He points to the lease between the owner and Impart. It is short-term and allows the owner to consider development options for the western half of the property. In the paragraph below, Mr. Ferguson selects sales of 5 surface parking lots in the area. These properties sold with an average price of approximately $40 per square foot and an average unit price per parking stall of $12,148. He calculates the value of the 16,900 square foot feet used as a parking area using $35 per square foot. This gives us a value of $591,500. the entire 33,813 square foot subject property sold in 2000 for $1,050,000. If we go to page 7, Madam Chair, of that order, in the paragraph is the last paragraph before the calculation of the potential income of the property. You'll see, and I quote verbatim here, Mr. Saunders calculates income from parking. He applies the assessment department parameter at $37 a month for all 79 stalls and adds this to his calculation of net operating income. Much the same that I've done for this parking lot, Madam Chair, for the subject parking lot. On page 9 of the order, Madam Chair, the third to last paragraph, and this is with respect to the board's position on this issue. Paragraph goes, the valuation of the parking space on the western half of the property requires the board to make a determination on the highest and best use of the subject property. Mr. Ferguson submits that the highest and best use of the property is as currently used, but he argues that the best use for the western half of the property is as developed property. So we're talking the parking situation in a sense here, Madam Chair. He develops a land value for the land used for parking by using the direct sales comparison approach. Mr. Ferguson identifies a land value of $114.08 per square foot by analyzing the sales of 4 other Class B office buildings. He then goes on the comparison sales of 5 downtown surface parking lots. From these sales, he extracts an average value of $40.37 per square foot. That's the way he did it. Now, if you go to page 10 of that order, Madam Chair, on the first paragraph, the owner and the operator of the parking lot is loose and allows for changes frequently. The owner may have intended to use this flexibility to avail itself of more parking as the business grew. Having proximity to its own parking adds value to the enterprise, and developing the parking lot would have repercussions on the owner. The board is persuaded that the highest and best use of the area in question is as a parking lot for the assessment year 2008. Now, how this relates to the value of my property, it's very similar in a sense. The owner is associated with the property next door. They need it specifically for parking for that property. And also, the highest and best use is parking, as I found, as the board found with the associated parking for this property also, and not to be determined by sales. And they placed the income, if you look with respect to their decision, Madam Chair, on page 11, you will see the net parking income, 79 stalls at $37 per month. That would be a net stall rate, and they applied that in their decision, Madam Chair, coming up with a value. And that's my rebuttal evidence associated with this property and properties that meet stock. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCubbin. Mr. Ducharme, do you have any questions of the rebuttal evidence?
I do not, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moretsky?
I do not, thank you.
Ms. Knight?
I do not, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just have a couple questions. This is a final order, Mr. McCubbin? I do not see a signature or a...
Yes, this is indeed as far as, I apologize, Madam Chair, I should have had the signatures associated with this order. This is in fact the final order, but it was generated from without the signatures. I can get that to the board if they so desire, or the board can access this this information also.
No, we will take your word for it.
Thank you.
Okay, I did note that this related to excess land on a single roll. So is that equivalent to this is a completely different roll? Associated, yes, but a completely different roll. Does that make a difference?
That does not make a difference. Like I said, these two properties can be merged, and maybe in fact should be merged in the future, Madam Chair. We're dealing with an economic unit situation here.
Okay. Okay, I have no additional questions. Mr. Ducharme, do you have rebuttal evidence with respect to this property?
I do not.
Thank you, Mr. Ducharme. And Mr. Ducharme, do you have desire for summation?
I do not.
Mr. McCubbin?
I do not, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Right, that concludes item number 2 on our agenda, 170 Bannatyne. We'll now move to item number 3 on our agenda, which is 127 Bannatyne. Let us just take a minute to get there. Okay, you may begin, Mr. Ducharme.
Thank you. The file number is 22-2896. Roll number 130-628-24000. The address is 127 Bannatyne. For the roll year 2023 with a reference date April 1st, 2021. We have an assessed value of $1,078,000. The parcel use is surface parking. The zoning is C character. The land area is 12,637 square feet, and we have an outdoor parking stall count of 40. Our recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value. Page 2, we have some aerial photos of the subject property on the north side of Bannatyne, with Rory Street to the west and Waterfront Drive to the east. The bottom photos are a couple of closer aerial views of the subject property from a couple of different angles. On page 3, we have a few street view photos of the subject property from a few different angles. The top is a photo of the subject property at the entrance to Bannatyne. The middle is a photo from Bannatyne, just passing it, and the bottom is a photo on the other side of the subject property from John Hirsch Place. Page 4, we have requests for information. Below that, the subject's sales history. This property sold in October 9th, 2019 for $1,200,000. So this was a sale along with the 170 Bannatyne as well. These were registered separately. And our records indicate this was an arm's length sale between unrelated parties. Below this chart, you'll note that we have applied a value of $85.31 per square foot to the subject property. You'll note that in the chart, that comparable to is the subject property. It sold for $94.96 per square foot in October of 2019. The other comparables are in close proximity to the subject. And it should be noted that the subject property has just started development for a 10-story building, that the owner has taken out a permit with a declared construction value of $21,500,000. The building's main level will be retail, second floors will be office, floors 3 through 10 will be apartments, and it will have underground parking. So this subject is no longer a parking lot, should not be treated as such. I do have copies of the permits and some pictures taken during a recent inspection. Should the board wish to, I could hand that out as we borrow. On page 5 is the municipal assessment and register. Pages 6 through 9, we have the 2020 income and expense mailers that were returned. And pages 10, 11 are the actual rental rates that were reported for the subject property website. And that would conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ducharme. Mr. McCubbin, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do, Madam Chair. So on page 4 of your presentation, you showed the consideration and sworn value of the actual sale of the property. And that is also sale number 2. Is that correct?
Subject to, yes.
Right. So the highest and best use of this property as it stands today is actually for development. Is that correct? It's being developed. It's no longer a parking lot.
Correct.
Those are all the questions I have right now, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McCubbin. Mr. Moretsky.
Yes, just to clarify again, you will be providing evidence of those plans for development of the 10-story building?
I do have them with me, yes. I guess I can't really distribute them, I guess, with you being remote.
I would
Mr.
concur,
Moretsky.
Madam Chair, if that's okay to help the board. I would concur that the property is being developed as such as the assessor says in his statements. I concur with that.
Okay, I accept that.
Okay.
No further questions.
Ms. Knight.
No questions, thank you.
Okay, I have no questions. So, Mr. McCubbin.
Thanks, Madam Chair. If you look at page 2 of my presentation, property owner is London Life. The property address is 127 Bannatyne Avenue. We have valued this property as a surface parking lot. It's no longer being used. That's not the highest and best use of this property any longer. This property is currently being developed, as you've heard in the assessor's testimony. I will leave my brief with the board. It's incorrect to view this as a surface parking lot and value it as a surface parking lot. We will be going back to the clients with respect to how we take this property forward, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McCubbin. Mr. Ducharme, do you have any questions for Mr. McCubbin?
No, I do not.
Mr. Moretsky.
I do not, thank you.
Ms. Knight.
I do not, thank you.
Thank you, and I do not either. So thank you very much for that, Mr. McCubbin.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
Okay, we have dealt with item number 4. Item 5 on our agenda is 38 Albert. Before we begin with this property, I see that there is a preliminary issue. Am I dealing with the right one? There is a preliminary issue to be dealt with first. The assessor has requested that the burden of proof be placed on the applicant for non-cooperation. So first, let's deal with that issue, and then we'll move forward from there. So, Mr. Ducharme.
Okay, I'll start with the file number, 22.
Sure. And then you can go right into the issue for burden of proof.
Okay, thank you. File number is 22-2302. Roll number is 130-600-20000. The address is 38 Albert for the roll year 2023 with reference date April 1st, 2021. We have an assessed value of $904,000. The parcel is surface parking.
Excuse me, Mr. Ducharme, if you could speak first to the burden of proof issue.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I'd just like to state that this property has a history non-compliance. We did not receive for 2018, 2019, or 2020. If you go to page 6 of my brief, on page 6, we see below a copy of the electronic signature card from Canada Post with a delivery date June 11th, 2021. We see that it does have a signature. We see that it was signed for, indicating that delivery had occurred. On page 7 are the instructions we provide for completing the questionnaire. Page 8, a listing of the relevant legislation regarding the request for information and effects of non-compliance that were sent. Page 9 is the cover letter that was sent, which has the delivery address at 500-191 Lombard. Pages 10 through 14 are the forms that were sent out, but were not returned. And that would conclude my presentation for the non-compliance. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McCubbin, do you have any questions?
No, I don't, Madam Chair.
Mr. Moretsky?
I do not.
Ms. Knight?
The signature that's on the page 6 of your presentation, do you know if that's a signature from the address at 191? Like, do you know if that's the person in the office person or the owner person, or do you know who signed it or anything?
Unfortunately, I don't know whose signature that would be.
Okay. And do we know that the post office goes right up to that unit at 500 on the 5th floor of 191 and not just leaving it at the main floor?
I wouldn't specifically know if
Okay.
that would.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. McCubbin, do you have anything to present with respect to this?
Madam Chair, my questions would be the same, or my observations are the same. Nevertheless, the assessor did speak of the history with respect to this property. I do have some information in my presentation, which I'll be dealing with, and just leave it at that, and let the board decide.
Okay, if you have information that deals with the burden of proof issue that would assist us in our determination, we should probably hear that piece of information. You can present it verbally or...
Madam Chair, it doesn't assist with the burden of proof. The information I have would be dealing with respect to the income and expense statements that I have in my possession with 12 months ending July of 2021, just a little past the reference period. We do have some information on the property, and it has nothing to do with the compliance issue, Madam Chair, and the letter itself.
Thank you very much. We will take a reset, or we'll go into camera so that the panel can discuss and make a decision on this issue. Thank you very much. The panel has deliberated on the assessor's request, and we have determined that the request that the burden of proof be placed on the applicant for non-cooperation be granted. So, Mr. McCubbin, that means the onus shifts to you, and you can begin with your presentation, please.
Thanks, Madam Chair. The property is 38 Albert Street, roll number 13-060020,000. We're dealing with the 2023 realty assessment on this property, Madam Chair, and the file number is 22-2302. On the second page of my brief, we have the reference date being April 1st, 2021. The current realty value or realty assessment for 2023 roll year is $904,000. We're requesting an assessed value of $414,000, Madam Chair. You can see the photograph of the subject property below from Albert Street, a street view of the subject property, and also on page 3, you can see photographs taken actually standing inside the subject property itself, or within the boundary of the subject property. It is a parking lot used for surface parking. It is, yep. With respect to the highest and best use, Madam Chair, it's considered to be its current use as a parking lot. That will be located on page 8 of my brief. Just to give you a description of the property on page 7. The property is a rectangular shaped surface parking lot located directly adjacent to the old St. Charles Hotel on Albert Street. The parking lot contains 23 parking stalls, which are open market stalls. This lot offers daily, evening, and weekend parking, so it's open to the public for parking throughout the day. It's zone C character with a total land area, as I've said, 10,599 square feet. Of note, I believe there will be a difference in the number of parking stalls. We say it's 23, Madam Chair, but the city, I believe, said it's 22 parking stalls. If you go to page 11 of my brief, I will be capitalizing an NOI. So again, this blurb is with respect to the capitalization rate and how we ascertained it. On page 12, you will see, Madam Chair, that the stalls, 23 at $75 per stall. And this is not directly from anything produced by the owner. This is generally using the city's parameters for 2023 reassessment. Times 12 months produces an NOI of this relatively small parking lot of $28,700, capitalized at 5%. For its current highest and best use, we say the value is $414,000. On page 14 of my presentation, in my appendix, you will see the parking map associated with the net income per stall range, which is located on page 15. And again, these two pages are excerpts from the City of Winnipeg reassessment document for 2023. And this area falls within the green area. The subject property falls within the green area, again with a band from $56 to $104 net per stall. We're at $75 per stall. That is where we get our value from with respect to the stall rate, Madam Chair. Going through the information, you can see requests for information, April 14, 2022, with respect to the property and income and expense statement on page 21. Which states total income of $24,175 and a relative net operating income of $9,304 rounded. It, however, does not have in that statement the expenses with respect to the property, but you can see that that's produced the statement of operations on page 27 of the brief. And we are ending up in a negative situation when you look at the income. Again, this is due to the fact that we're dealing with a pandemic situation here too, Madam Chair. The income was essentially gutted during this period. That's why we revert to the city's net stall rate. The NOI is negative on that statement, Madam Chair. We do believe this property has value, so we cannot use this. And I asked the board to lower the assessed value, Madam Chair, nevertheless to $414,000 based on the income approach to value. Surface parking is highest and best use. Thank you.
Sorry, it was on mute. Mr. Ducharme, do you have any questions?
So yes, I guess, do you have any market evidence against this market value, $75 per stall?
The only evidence I have, Madam Chair, is the evidence that I have on page 14 and 15, which is directly from the city's reassessment document in regards to net stall rates.
How did you choose the $75?
I chose it by going essentially right in the center of that and giving recognition to the fact within this period, Madam Chair, the income was essentially gutted. I think it's fair to treat it this way. And in that stall rate, net stall rate, you would have an appropriate to arrive at that net stall rate. You would have an appropriate deduction for operations at around probably 45%. So it's being treated naturally as if it's fully occupied at this point in time with a stall rate in the middle of that band, Madam Chair. But that's in fact not the situation with respect to its current even situation today, Madam Chair. I should say we haven't bounced back totally from things being the way they were pre-pandemic.
No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ducharme. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions?
Yeah, on page 27, for those years 2020 and 2021, 2020 is a revenue of $76,950, and there's 23 stalls there. So how much is that per stall?
That would give us a stall rate of $278 gross, Madam Chair, if you were to use that. Yeah.
And that's if they're all used.
This would be, yeah.
Something doesn't make sense to me with these
No.
numbers here.
No. The value, you can see it's gutted somewhat as we move forward to 2021, Madam Chair. You can see the difference in income.
But even if you took 2021, it would still be extremely high revenue per stall, wouldn't it?
Right, yes. And when you look at the property taxes associated with this parcel and the miscellaneous fees, professional fees, we chose to go, Madam Chair, with what the city promoted in their in the reassessment document, and we chose to go right in the center of the of that band. Hopefully that's helpful or answers your questions.
Okay, so you're not putting any weight on those on the actual expenses presented then?
No, I'm not, because it doesn't produce this property does have value, Madam Chair. I'm not saying it does not have value. It certainly does not have a negative value.
All right. No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Moretsky. Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
I do. So the owner of this property is stated as 6295402 Manitoba Avenue Limited. That statement on page 27 is 221969 Manitoba Limited. So does the 22 number own the 62 number, or the 62 number own the 22 number, or is this statement for the wrong property altogether?
That's with respect to the roll number, Madam Chair. If we go to the roll number, which is what I will reference. If you look at page 21, Madam Chair, of my presentation, you see the property address in the top right-hand corner. Sorry, in the middle of the page, and then you see the associated roll number with that property, which is the roll number of the subject property.
Okay, but that statement on page 27,
right,
says the statement is for 22196 Manitoba Limited. Is that the name of the property owner?
That is not the numbered company associated with this property owner. Nevertheless, this was relayed to us as part of the income statement for this property. I chose, however, to not look at this statement. It made no sense to me, Madam Chair, in terms of valuation.
So do you know who 22196 Manitoba Limited even is?
I don't have that information.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Find out, but
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Knight. Mr. McCubbin, can you speak to the development potential of this lot? In your view, you've obviously used the income approach, so you don't see that there is development potential?
Madam Chair, I don't see development potential for this particular lot in the near future. It's always been a parking lot. Not always, but it has been a parking lot for some time. And in the foreseeable future, I believe it will be a parking lot. There's income that is derived from this. It's used for surface parking. So it ought to be viewed by the income approach to value and not by the direct sales comparison approach. Hope that answers questions.
I'm not sure, but that's okay. We'll move to
the development horizon. I believe is way off, and I believe if it does happen, as in the case of the previous property, we'd have the opportunity to address that immediately. But it has been a parking lot for some time, and it continues to be a parking lot.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Ducharme, I believe now we'll hear your presentation, please.
Thank you. File number 2302, the roll number 130-600-2000, the address 38 Albert. For the roll year 2023, with a reference date April 1st, 2021, we have an assessed value of $904,000. The parcel use surface parking, zoning character. We have a land area 10,599 square feet and an outdoor parking count of 22. On page 2, we have a few aerial views of the subject property. In the top, you see the subject property located at 38 Albert. And we see that the subject property is in close proximity to Portage and Main. At the bottom of page 2 are a couple of closer aerial views of the subject property. On page 3, we have a few street view photos of the subject property. On the top is a street view photo approaching the subject on Albert. In the middle, we are in front of the subject from Albert. And on the bottom, we're passing the subject property on Albert. Page 4, we have requests for information. Below that, the subject sales history. And then the subject property land sale comparable chart. We've applied a value of $85.29 per square foot to the subject property. All the comparables are in close proximity to the subject property. On page 5, we have the Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. And then we have the pages 6 through 14 were the non-compliance issues, and then page 15 were the actual reported rental rates from the website of the subject property. That would conclude my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Ducharme. Mr. McCubbin, do you have any questions?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. So, Mr. Ducharme, the questions are similar to the ones I've asked you in the past. What's your idea of the highest and best use of this property as it stands today?
I think based on its size and shape and its location, there would be opportunity for development for this property as it currently stands.
Okay, and what would be that development horizon? Is it near? Is it far? Is it far in the future, or is it immediate?
I wouldn't know.
Okay. But it's currently used as a surface parking lot, right?
That's its current use.
Yes. And if we look at your photographs of the property, the lot is a gravel surface parking lot.
I believe it is.
And is there power? It's unpowered, is it not?
I believe so, yes. I believe this one's not.
Those are all the questions I have.
Thank you very much. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions?
So this is still a parking lot?
Yes, still a parking lot at present time.
And you're not aware of any plans for development?
No, they're not aware of any plans for development.
And how long? It's been a parking lot for how long?
Not absolutely certain how long, but it has been for a few cycles.
Do you know anything about that sale on July 11th, 2011? 800,000 for a sale 10 years ago seems to be a little high.
Unfortunately, we did not receive a return sales questionnaire from that, so we don't know anything further to the specifics.
All right. Okay, no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Moretsky. Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
On your page 16 of your report, which you didn't speak about, that's why I'm going to ask some questions on it. So this is the surface parking stabilized, like how the applicant's using $75 per stall net, correct? This is the average?
The stabilized net operating income per stall per month would be the net income reported from these comparable properties.
Okay, so which of these comparable properties is the best comparable to 38 Albert Street?
I hadn't thought of that to be a question. Just trying to figure out one that would be the closest.
Which one? Sorry?
I'm trying to figure out which might be
Okay.
the closest
Yeah.
to the subject property. There's a few on Bannatyne I noted that were like 550 meters away. The one, I don't know if there's one on here.
Mm-hmm.
I have some properties, I guess the ones on Bannatyne, they're only about 550 meters away from the subject property.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Knight. And I have no additional questions. Mr. Ducharme, is there rebuttal evidence for this property?
I do not have them.
Mr. McCubbin?
I do not have any, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And Mr. McCubbin, is there a desire for summation?
No, there's not.
Okay, Mr. Ducharme?
No, there's not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, move to the second last property on our docket. Item number 6, 211 McDermott Avenue. Mr. Ducharme, when you're ready, please.
Thank you. File number 22-1325. The roll number is 130-608-64000. The address is 211 McDermott Avenue. For the roll year 2023 with a reference date April 1st, 2021, we have an assessed value of $1,214,000. Parcel use is surface parking, zoning is C character. The land area is 11,062, and we have an outdoor parking count of 29. Our recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value. On page 2, we have a few aerial photos of the subject property. From the top, you can see that the subject property is located on the northwest corner, McDermott and Main. The bottom, we have a couple closer aerial views of the subject property from a couple different angles. On page 3, we have a few street view photos of the subject property from a few different angles. At the top, we are approaching the subject entrance. In the middle photo, passing subject property towards Main Street on the bottom. Page 4, our request for information. The subject sales history, there's no recent sales history. And then the subject property land sales comparable chart. Below this chart, you'll see we applied a value of $109.75 per square foot to the subject property. All comparables are in close proximity to the subject property. Most of these have remained parking lots, some have been developed. Page 5, the Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. Pages 6 through 11 for the 2020 income and expense mailers that have been returned. Page 12 and 13 are the actual reported rates from the subject website. And I will conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ducharme. Mr. McCubbin, do you have any questions of the assessor's evidence?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. Again, the same questions in regards to the highest and best use of the property, Mr. Ducharme. What is your idea of the highest and best use of this property? Or what is your conclusion, sorry?
That it no longer has a surface parking lot.
No longer a surface parking lot. Is it currently being used as a surface parking lot?
Yes.
It is. Okay. How long has it been used? How long has it been used as a surface parking lot?
It's been a few cycles for sure. Not
Okay.
certain how.
Fair enough. And is this parking lot leased out to Impark?
Yes.
It
Well,
is.
Impark manages it.
They manage it, right? Okay, so when you look at, sorry,
Oh, they have the sign, yeah.
so you do have income and expense statements, but if you look at page 6 of your statement, months ending January 31st, 2021, which is just prior to the reference date, you do have parking related to this property of $52,000, right?
Or Lincoln, yes.
Right, total income. But then you look at the expense side of things, and the only expense reported is with respect to taxes. Is that correct?
Correct.
Right. So in fact, this is an income producing property, is it not?
It is.
Okay. Those are all the questions I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McCubbin. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions?
Yes, the amount per square foot that you calculated was $109.75 for this lot, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
That's a fair amount higher than some of the other ones that we've looked at today. What would be the reason for that?
I believe its location, being right on the corner of Main, on the corner of McDermott and Main.
Okay.
Block south of, or a block away from, a block north of Floridian Main.
Was there one that we looked at earlier that was close to Main Street as well?
170 Bannatyne is tucked in behind the building just off Main.
And how much did you allow for that one?
That one's was sold in October 2019 for $95.15. It's a bit more regularly shaped.
Okay, good we can go back to the mailer again. Expenses. So this is for the first 3 months of 2021.
Sorry?
Correct. This is expenses for 3 months or for 1 year to 2021.
This is page 6.
Okay, so that's January 31st, 2021. Is that what the date is?
Yes, on the income and expense statement on page 6, yes, that's
Page 6, yeah, sorry.
that's your ending date, yes.
So that's 12 months though. Those expenses are for 12 months, right?
That would be my understanding, yes, should be 12 months. That's what we're requesting, yes.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you, Mr. Moretsky. Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
Just the 34 stalls compared to the 30 stalls on the income and expense.
Yeah, I did inspect this. It's the parking lot. I was not clear to the pavement. It's kind of difficult to confirm the parking count. I couldn't go above the 29 when I was there. I perhaps thinking they might be. If you look at page 2 of my brief, the bottom photo, there's an area kind of bordering the trees there. They may be considering that as some parking stalls. I'm not sure. And what also makes it difficult, they're not actually marked. So,
Okay.
but I couldn't confirm anything more than the 29 that we have.
Ms. Knight, do you have additional questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you, and I have no questions. So, Mr. McCubbin, when you're ready with your presentation, please.
Thanks, Madam Chair. The property owner is OG Investments Limited, and the property address is 211 McDermott Avenue. It's associated with the property right next door also, Madam Chair. I believe it's the same owner, although the property, the registered owner may be the same, may be different, but the principles are the same. It's a nightclub right next door. The assessment year is 2023. Subject site is 11,062 square feet. We're dealing with a reference date of April 1st, 2021. We're asking for the assessed value to be reduced to $612,000. And we're valuing this as a surface parking lot, Madam Chair, not a lot that's ready and waiting to be developed anytime soon. There's a difference in the reported stall count, the stall counts that we have historically, and the city's stall count. For the purposes of this valuation, we're going with our reported stall, with our information that we have currently in our office of 34 surface parking stalls, Madam Chair. That's located on page 6 of my brief. Property is on the northwest corner of Main Street and on McDermott Avenue. Now, highest and best use on page 7, Madam Chair, is considered to be the continuance of its current use as a parking lot. As far as we know, there is no immediate plans to develop this site, and it has been used as a parking lot in previous years and cycles. On page 10 is our capitalization rate conclusion. On page 11, Madam Chair, we have again a stall count of 34. We're using for this valuation at $75. That's net per stall times 12 months. And we capitalize that NOI at 5%, arriving at a value in its current use of $612,000. And we feel its current use is its highest and best use, Madam Chair. It's not speculative at this point in time. It will continue for the foreseeable future as a parking lot as far as we're concerned. On the appendix, in my appendix, Madam Chair, on page 14 and 15, again, you're quite familiar with those pages now. And again, this property is located in the green area. In regards to this property, you can see that the income reported for this property on page 17 is $62,000 in total. However, there were no expenses reported, just in the form of insurance and taxes. No expenses associated with this property. This property is in fact, again, managed by Impark, I believe. yes, it is. And the owner does not have that information. The owner's NOI, that would make the owner's NOI high in comparison to what the relative value of the property is, Madam Chair, for the purposes of the income approach to value. If the owner was managing this property themselves, they would incur the expenses associated with the property itself, and that income would also be different. They'd have control of that income. Again, during the pandemic, this was this is a contract with respect to the operation of this parking lot that Impark has, and it has been devastated during the pandemic also, given its location. We all, however, have no expenses with respect to this parking lot. So I defaulted in a sense to, again, because of that, to the city's information that they provided in the reassessment brochure for the 2023 reassessment in valuing this property, and that's me.
Okay, anything further to add then, Mr. McCubbin? Does that conclude your presentation?
That concludes my presentation, sorry.
No, that's fine, thank you. Mr. Ducharme, do you have any questions?
I do. Page 29, page 11, I'll be brief. If we look at the valuation, 612,000, divide that by the area of the lot,
Right.
being 11,062 square feet, we get a value of $55.32 per square feet for that property, which is on the corner of McDermott and Main, and a block from the intersection of Portage and Main Street. Does that seem reasonable?
That seems reasonable, Madam Chair, with respect to the income that this property would derive, particularly again associated with and the continuance of the pandemic affecting this specific area. The highest and best use is as a surface parking lot. It does derive income. There is income that's derived from this property. I feel if the development potential was close on the horizon, yes, I would agree the value would possibly be much higher. That's not the case. And that's the difference you would see in terms of the value for this property being at that relative square foot value compared to the sales that the assessor has produced.
Mr. McCubbin, would you agree that the lowest actual daily rental rate for the subject property is $225 per month?
Yes, I do agree with that, Madam Chair. However, again, this property, to default to a cost approach to value, a direct sales comparison approach, I believe is inappropriate. It should be treated. We have reassessment cycles every 2 years. It was quite different between the pandemic, in the midst of the pandemic, where it was switched to 3 years. We have the ability to move on this value in the future if it's proven out. We need to deal with the current circumstances of this property, Madam Chair, and its highest and best use. And our position is the pandemic still affects the value as an income-producing property, and there's no development horizon associated with this property.
So the reason I brought up the lowest actual daily rental rate is, and if we were to take that amount, $225 per month, and use the 45 expense ratio that you've applied previously, we would get a rate of $123.75 per stall that the owner would receive. Would you agree that this value more accurately reflects?
No, I don't, because I have not. No, it does not. I mean, I'm not. You're recalculating my figures and coming up with your value. And I wish that the department had done an income approach that can be challenged and we can make some sense out of this. And they might have found that approach would need tempering at this point in time, and it wouldn't have anything to do with the actual value of the property as it stands today. Again, we have the ability to change the value in this property as we move forward. We have reassessment cycles every 2 years. With the current situation with respect to the hybrid work situation, you may see changes in contracts and in parking with respect to the downtown area, Madam Chair. We're still being affected with the hybrid. As you're located downtown, you're not parking in this parking lot. A lot of people are working remotely still. And there you have it.
All these rates were effective as of April 1st, 2021.
Yes, you can ask for the sky. I can ask for $1 million for my property, but if it's only worth $300,000, I mean, you can. The ask is there. Yes, what's reality is different, Madam Chair.
No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ducharme. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Thank you. Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
Just to the map on page 14. So most of these properties today are in the Exchange District. This one would be in the Portage and Main District. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
So majority of your properties, you've been using the $75 per stall. Does
Right.
that change per district then, or each district all those districts in green then would be excuse me, $75 per stall?
No, you would see if you look at the table produced by the Assessment and Taxation Department, it runs from a low of $56 net to $104. So that's quite a difference.
Right, but you're using the 75 for all the properties, so that's why I'm asking.
To
In
take
your mind, are they the same?
Sorry? Pardon?
That's why I'm asking. In your mind, are they the same if you're using the 75?
No, they're not the same in location, but what I'm trying to capture, Madam Chair, is the situation a lot of these property owners find themselves in today. And the revenue has dropped on these properties. I'm trying to have some semblance of reality in the valuation of these properties as we go forward. I chose $75. That's at a full rate, I guess, with no vacancy per se. And that would be associated with a 45% approximately expense ratio. But however, this property was affected in the reference period with respect to income and continues to be affected in the reference period, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I have no additional questions. Mr. Ducharme, do you desire summation?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McCubbin?
Neither do I, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Okay, we will move to the final item on our docket. It's got no civic address. File number 2379. So Mr. Ducharme, when you are ready, please.
Thank you. The roll number is 130608 97100. There's no address. I'll call it Arthur Street. The roll year is 2023 with a reference date April 1st, 2021. We have an assessed value $878,000. Partial use is surface parking. Zoning is character. We have a land area $10,291 and an outdoor stall count of 40. Our recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value. On page 2, we have some aerial photos of the subject property on the east side of Arthur, bordered by McDermott and Notre Dame. The subject property is located in the Exchange District neighborhood. The bottom, we have a couple of closer aerial views of the subject property from a couple different angles. On page 3, we have a few street view photos of the subject property from a few different angles. At the top, we're approaching the subject entrance on Arthur. The middle, we're at the entrance to the subject property. And on the bottom, we're passing the subject property. Page 4, requests for information. Below that, the subject sales history. There's no recent sales history, and our land sales comparable chart. We've applied a value of $85.32 per square foot to the subject property. Page 5, the Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. Pages 6 through 17 are the 2020 income and expense mailers we've received back. And page 18 are the actual reported rental rates for the subject property. We see that they charge evening and weekend rates. And page 19, the comparable reported rental rates for the subject property. And that would conclude my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Ducharme. Mr. McCubbin, do you have any questions of the assessor?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. Mr. Ducharme, you pointed out the income and expense statements associated with this property located on the beginning, I believe, with page 9 of your presentation. Sorry. Page 5 of your presentation, right?
6.
Sorry, page 6. So if I can get you to continue going through that, and then we turn to page 14 of your brief.
Okay.
You can see the data, you can see on the bottom of that page that is consolidated for the roll numbers, and it gives the following roll numbers. This roll number is the last roll number. It says property address, and the properties about that are 54 and 70. So they're consolidated in that income and expense statement. Is that correct?
Yes.
So this parking lot is associated with those two buildings.
Yes.
And used for parking and also rented out and included. Have you had a chance to look at that statement, Mr. Ducharme?
Yes.
You've had. Was it in coming up with your valuation of the property, or specifically from my brief?
Sorry?
You've had a chance to look at the income and expense statements of in its entirety that is associated with those three roll numbers?
I didn't take a thorough review of it. I've gone over it. Yes, I've looked at it.
So you've looked at that. So that comprehensive report you looked at, was that previous to coming up with a value for this property of 878, or was that after you received my presentation?
No, the value was there before your presentation.
No, I'm not speaking of the value. I'm speaking of the income and expense statements for 54 Arthur and 70 Arthur. Did you review those before you
those
reviewed
particular,
Yeah.
no, I didn't review those particular property item income and expense reports. No.
Those are all the questions. Those are all the questions I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McCubbin. Mr. Moretsky, any questions of the assessor?
Yes. So you valued this land based on, again, based on future development?
Based on, the land sale comparables provided, yes.
Okay, so your land sale comparables on page 4 are sale dates 2019 and sooner. Sorry, sooner. Correct?
I think he picked out.
Mr. Moretsky, can you repeat the question?
Yes, your land or market sales comparison on page 4. So the sales dates are all 2019 and earlier.
Correct.
So, would you agree that for property downtown, with the situation changing so much because of COVID, that not having a sale in the 2020 year, it's sort of a shortage of information for you there because you don't have any measure for that impact?
Yes, I think I would agree with that. We unfortunately don't have those, and I think we will see any potential impacts the next cycle, but unfortunately we weren't able to for this cycle. So
did you consider that potential impact in your evaluation?
No, it was difficult to determine any impacts. Obviously, there would have been, but the extent I wouldn't know.
Because as a prospective buyer in 2019, they may have determined that it was a good economic reasoning to purchase a parking lot or a building for X amount of dollars based on the future value, based on what was happening at that particular time. However, maybe they wouldn't have thought that way in 2020 and may not pay that amount that they would have paid in 2019. But made myself clear enough there, I hope.
I think that might be somewhat of a fair assessment, but as to what extent, again, I wouldn't be able to put a number on it.
But there would be some, though, right? Some impact.
Yeah, it's undetermined, but I would believe so.
All right. I don't have more questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, and neither do I. So, Mr. McCubbin, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Madam Chair. If you can turn to page 2 of my brief, Madam Chair. You'll see a photograph of the subject property. Again, the assessor has provided and the description of the area and the subject property in great detail, so I won't go through that. The property owner is Arthur Street Parking Lot Incorporated. The address is 0 Arthur Street. You can see the roll number 13-0608-97-100. The assessment here is 2023. The site area is 10,291 square feet. Value as of the reference date for this particular roll number, Madam Chair, we were requesting $1 with respect to the value of this property. the income for this property is associated with the buildings across the street. I've produced that income with the I&E information in the brief. I'm not about to value those buildings at this hearing, but I will, however, make the statement that the income is embedded and associated and captured within the valuation of those properties across the street, Madam Chair. So if you pull that value out, yes, you can put it on this parking lot. If it's embedded in there, and it's our belief in consultation with the agents in Altus that it's embedded in the value of those two buildings, this ought to be $1, Madam Chair. I have not, if you can turn to page 10 of my presentation, you'll see written there, the subject parking lot forms a single economic unit with 54 and 70, as has been reported in the I&E for this arcade, or this parking lot, sorry, that the assessor has produced in his brief. It's essentially blank, but it does reference the 3 roll numbers. We're therefore asking that the value be reduced to $1. The associated comprehensive income and expense statements can be found beginning at page 17 of my brief, Madam Chair. It goes all the way through to page 51. As I said, I'm not about to go through this income and expense statement. These properties have been heard, and the value has not been deducted from those properties. So in terms of this parking lot, it should have been, but in reality, it wasn't. And we're asking for this to be at $1. That's my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. McCubbin. Mr. Ducharme, do you have any questions?
I do have some questions, and I'd like a summation as well for this.
Sure.
For the questions, page 2. I see in your photo, which I have my brief as well, that the parking lot is managed by InPark and has a revenue stream for evening and weekend parking. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's managed by InPark, Madam Chair.
Is that evening and weekend parking only for the tenants of the buildings at 54 and 70, or could I go and park there?
I believe that you can go park in there. It's open after hours, Madam Chair.
So the parking lot does operate independently of the building, correct?
It's operated by a different operator, Madam Chair, but associated, the information and income and expense statements are associated with the property. The tenants, it's my understanding, within the 2 buildings use this parking lot also. And I will be filing rebuttal evidence with respect to that. It's the similar rebuttal evidence that I filed when we have an association as such.
Mr. Ducharme,
That would be all.
thank you. Mr. Moretsky.
So what is 54 and 70 Arthur? Those are multifamily residences, or?
They're mixed-use buildings right across the street, Madam Chair. Substantial developments in the warehouse district.
Is there pictures of them?
Pardon me, I should have provided a photo of it, but I did not. But if you look at on page 6 of my presentation, Madam Chair, you'll see the location of the parking lot. it's not cadastrally, it's not mapped out on this aerial photograph, but it is that. How do I describe where exactly it is? Maybe the assessor has. Yes, if you look at the assessor's brief, Madam Chair, you'll see it's outlined in red. See if you can take that and superimpose it on my map on page 6, and or either that or look at the assessor's brief. The buildings associated with this parking lot and the income stream associated with this parking lot also is located right across the street. You can see the roof of those properties just to the north, across the street, Madam Chair, going right up to McDermott, from about midway between the parking lot all the way to McDermott. Those are the addresses associated with that park. And it's my understanding, in speaking with my colleagues at Altus, that value is embedded in the value of those two properties. So we're asking for it to be $1 per square foot.
I have no further questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Moretsky. Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
So there's 3 separate roll numbers currently right now. And do we know for a fact that one of those other 2 roll numbers included this parking lot in them?
Yes, we do. If you look at the statements from, if you look at the brief that the assessor produced, he actually produced the brief for this property, Madam Chair. Sorry, not the brief, but the income and expense statements in regards to this property. It begins at page 6 of his brief, and it goes all the way through to the end. Sorry, not the end, but page 17. But on page 14, as pointed out earlier, if you look at the information provided on page 14 below, because essentially the INE is blank, but if you look at that information below, you can see it says data consolidated for the roll numbers, and it speaks to 54 Arthur, 70 Arthur, and the subject property.
Right, I understand that the data is for all 3, but do we have proof that either of those 2 roll numbers for 70 Arthur or 54 Arthur include that parking lot on their taxation bill or whatever, however that works?
I do not have proof of that, Madam Chair, but again, I'm going to repeat myself. In consultation with my colleagues at Altus, I was told that value is embedded in the value already of the properties across the street associated with this roll number, and in a comprehensive format, you can see I provided that income valuation it's not the valuation, income information beginning at page 17 of my brief. So to answer your question, no, I don't have proof.
Okay, so is there a process that the owner of this property should be going through to have those 2 amalgamated?
Yes, you can actually merge the property, but for reasons, you can only merge a property, Madam Chair, if the ownership is exactly the same. It has to read exactly the same at land titles.
Okay, so this
cannot be merged.
Yeah.
So it's not that you can merge every property associated with a roll number. For administrative purposes, it would be best to be merged, but in some instances it can't be. Because you're dealing
You cannot, so just to reiterate, you cannot state for a fact that those other two roll numbers have this parking lot embedded into the value of that property at the taxation department.
I don't have that information.
Okay.
I have the information, as I've said before, in consultation with my colleagues, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was going to ask a similar question, and I appreciate that you do have information or through discussion with your Altus colleagues, but you have not presented any written information in your brief that would demonstrate to us that the parking lot revenue is included within a different role. That would be correct, right?
That is correct, Madam Chair. So
Okay.
I will leave that with you for now, and we can yes.
Okay.
Perhaps
And
that's a good suggestion I made. I should have maybe produced that, but then my thinking on that, Madam Chair, is that I would be regurgitating and actually valuing a property and bringing information on the property here and discussion of how it's related to this property when it was already done. And
yeah, fair enough.
But I will leave this decision with you, obviously.
Thank you. And another question, you said that rules can be combined, of course, if they're one economic unit, and it might be a good idea. Are you suggesting that these three properties cannot be combined because they have different ownership?
They may have, and I haven't looked at the actual registered owner of the properties associated with this property. It says Arthur Street Incorporated for one. Arthur Street.
Mhm.
See, it's different, Madam Chair. On this property, it says Arthur Street Parking Lot Inc.
Right.
We have a problem going from history and from my knowledge of mergers. Madam Chair, we generally do not merge properties that have different ownerships registered at the land title. This causes problems.
Mm-hmm.
And so in some cases it can. In this case, I suspect it can't be merged.
Okay. Has this issue previously been raised with the assessment department? Are you aware?
That's a good question. I don't know, Madam Chair. In investigating this property, however, these issues that do come up from time to time, and it did come up in my investigation of this property, and in speaking to my colleagues, that is the conclusion we came to.
Okay. Thank you then. I have no additional questions. Now, I believe that there is rebuttal evidence, Mr. McCubbin, that you'd like to present?
Yes, I'm not sure how it speaks to the association of a parcel next door. I would rather not present it for this property because it's not really relevant.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Ducharme, do you have rebuttal evidence?
As part of my summation, perhaps? No, I do not have
rebuttal. Okay. Okay then. So, Mr. Ducharme, you would like summation on this property?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, please.
So we believe that a single economic unit means that one cannot perform without the other, that the building can only survive because it needs the parking, and the parking can only survive because it needs the building. We believe a prospective purchaser could operate this parking lot by itself. We believe it could survive without the building because of its location. In fact, there are many parking lots in the near vicinity of this parking lot doing just that. In addition, this parking is not a requirement to operate the buildings at 54 and 70 Arthur. There is no bylaw stating that they need a certain amount of off-street parking, and this is because of its location within the downtown. So on page 85 of the applicant actually presented it earlier as rebuttal of the downtown Winnipeg zoning bylaw, number 100/2004. On page 85, there's the map titled Riverbank Sector. This map shows the boundaries for properties located within this bylaw where off-street parking is not a requirement to operate the building. The subject property is located within these boundaries, meaning that 54 and 70 Arthur can operate without a parking lot. There is no bylaw saying that they need a certain amount of parking. And again, this is because of the location within the bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ducharme. Mr. McCubbin, summary?
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. Mr. Ducharme did rightfully spell out the bylaw associated with this property, Madam Chair. It's not, and it has been throughout my presentation. My presentation has not been with respect to the value, or this cannot be hived off and sold as a property. What I'm merely saying today, and I guess I'll repeat myself again, is in speaking to colleagues who have dealt with those two properties, is that the value of this property was embedded and captured in the value of the properties across the street, Madam Chair. So there are two different things we're dealing with here. I'm not saying that this property can't be sold as an income producing property, and the value is associated in the income statements and was dealt with in the valuation of the previously mentioned properties. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. McCubbin. I think that now concludes item number 7 on our agenda. So having said that, then we've heard all the items scheduled and this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your presentations today.
Thanks, Madam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.